March to Freedom, Day 14. 2 weeks. Welcome back to Dudes Ascend, where we talk about how to elevate ourselves as men. My name is Hamilton, and we are 2 weeks into our 30-day March to Freedom from Porn challenge. I hope you guys are rocking it. I hope you guys are doing good, staying on track. And today I want to talk about this book that I know I've mentioned before called Cupid's Poisoned Arrow by Marnia Robinson. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this book a little bit today is because we are 2 weeks in, and one of the most fascinating parts about this book that I got from it, and that is really was just like a huge insight into my own like cycles and patterns of behavior and just like relationship cycles in general, is my hair is doing crazy things. What it was, this idea of the passion cycle, which was an in-depth explanation of the neurological processes and cycles that occur with orgasm in the brain. So without trying to get too much into the nitty-gritty of that and the technical details of it, basically what occurs during orgasm is there's this huge spike of multiple chemicals, including dopamine, like the pleasure chemical, right? And then afterwards there is a pretty equally as big drop in different chemicals, and there's also other chemicals that come into the brain over the next 2 weeks that are basically the brain way of rebalancing, recalibrating, coming back to balance. I'm having a brain fart on the word for that right now. This is the brain's way of regulating itself, right? At any time there's intense pleasures, there's going to be like some kind of suffering afterwards. It's just the way it is. A lot of philosophers talk about this, but it really is like the brain's response to big levels of dopamine is to balance that out, and a lot of times it's balanced out by feelings of anxiety, anxiousness, frustration. All those things become a lot more prevalent for us after, in the 2 weeks, particularly 2 weeks after orgasm. And what she calls it in this book is the passion cycle. So Marnia Robinson is actually Gary Wilson's wife, and I mentioned Gary Wilson before when we were talking about his documentary and book, Your Brain on Porn. He had some incredible work on really showing again the neuroscience of what this super drug actually does to your brain. Marnia Robinson is his wife, and she's also going deep into the neuroscience, but more particularly to orgasm itself, and also so this 2 week cycle is really important, right? She calls it the passion cycle, and it really puts into context a lot of the arguments and things. The most intense arguments that you usually have with your partner are during this 2 weeks after one or both of you might have had orgasm. You're that much more likely to have conflict and argue and be irritable and be easily frustrated and kind of tense. And it's so true, man. Ever since reading that book, my wife and I have noticed that if one or both of us are in this passion cycle, like, to really just be extra careful about like not taking things personal, not letting ourselves get too escalated. If we start to feel a bit of like an argument coming on, being like, hey, well, let's remember we are in a passion cycle here. And we even like see it in other couples, right? Like where like other couple might be getting in a really heated argument. We're like, well, they did just have that vacation together like last week, it's like, what was probably happening while on vacation. And it's like, it's just funny to see how accurate it seems to be. So it's a big game changer, and I don't want to try to get it too much into the book. I want you guys to really check this book out for yourselves, because she does go beyond that to give you some really practical actual like exercises to take yourself through with a partner, that can actually address like still being able to enjoy sex, actually have like really enjoyable connected sex with your partner, but be able to, you know, deal with like avoiding this kind of hangover effect that occurs after orgasm. And it's just really interesting. It's a fascinating read. I'll just leave it at that. It's worth a read. It's really a kind of a mind-blowing book, and blew my mind, and it was very interesting for my wife and I to read together, and we got a lot of great insights, and it really improved our intimacy a lot too. Like when we have attempted some of these practices that she has in the book, like we saw real results, like for sure. So I want you guys to check that book out. I'm gonna leave the link for it below, I think. And so I'm talking about this passion cycle today because, again, she says it's typically you see those hangover like effects 2 weeks after orgasm. So if you guys have been staying on track in this 30-day challenge, you've arrived here at day 14. We're literally like just coming out of the really difficult part of this, to where we should start seeing, if you've been able to avoid orgasm completely, you should start seeing after today a major turnaround beginning to happen in the next couple days of just your overall mood level, your overall sense of like peace and calm within your body and presence, and overall like really like almost like a sense of flow, where sometimes when we are stuck in this passion cycle, if you could think of the analogy of like life feeling like you're fighting and struggling to swim upstream against some really heavy current, like life feels that way sometimes, where it's just like, man, everything is a challenge, everything is an obstacle, everything's getting in the way, getting on your nerves. That's kind of the passion cycle hangover effect. When you get past that 2 weeks, then you can really start to settle into this flow where it feels like you're going with the stream. Things are coming to you, working for you, synchronicities and, you know, just unexpected blessings coming in and assisting you with what you're doing. Things kind of like falling into your lap of ways that you wouldn't have even expected, being like, man, I didn't even think of that as a possibility, but that's great. You know, that's the kind of place that we're trying to get into, and that's what you should start seeing in the next couple days here, is like that kind of big time shift, because we're getting out of the passion cycle, and the passion cycle is the hard part. It's always the hardest part. So major congrats and props to anyone who has made it through this 2-week passion cycle and been able to completely stay away from porn. And maybe even if you have also stayed away from orgasm in general, that is great, because you are now moving out of the passion cycle. So things should start to feel actually considerably easier from here on out. If you haven't been able to stay away from orgasm, you know, again, check out this book, because it will give you some really good insight and maybe motivation to just like food for thought, to consider these sort of deeper level brain processes that are happening within the body, and an understanding of it. It's like, it doesn't mean you never want to orgasm again, knowing the hangover effect, but it's like you might approach it differently. You know, the same way that you can get a hangover if you drink too much. You know, you might choose how many drinks you're gonna have, and like basically, it's just really good things to be aware of and consider, and you're just equipping yourself with more knowledge of your own bodily processes, your own mental processes, the ways that your brain is being affected by your own behavior and things. And it can really start to bring a lot of clarity for yourself. And I just can't suggest it enough. It really, really is a fascinating read. It kind of turned my whole view on sex and all of that upside down when I read it. And I got it from another YouTuber, actually, who this guy named Gold Jacket Luke, who does a lot of videos about quitting porn and the effects of porn, and like different nofap challenges. And I had been watching a lot of his videos, and I saw him mention this book a couple times, and he was saying how much of a game changer it was for him when he read it. And I totally agree. When I read it, it's very profound. It's one of the most fascinating books I've ever read. So yeah, I really highly recommend that. I hope you guys will check it out. And even if you don't, congrats on making it through the passion cycle. I'm letting you know from the information I've gathered in this book, and I've found it to be very true in my own personal experience. We're moving out of the difficult part now, and you should start to see things get a little bit easier over the next couple days. So way to go. Cheering you guys on from over here. I'll see you tomorrow on day 15. Make sure you like and subscribe before you leave this video, because I am trying to grow this channel just to be able to help more people with this issue. I think there's not enough conversation about this, and there's way a lot of people dealing with it, and there's just very little conversation about it, and that's unfortunate. People need support, and just even to just have an honest conversation. And guys like Gold Jacket Luke, he's one of the few people out there that are really creating that conversation. If I can be one more voice adding that and giving an opportunity to just sort of like initiate and start some conversation, start some real thought-provoking talks about it, then that's great. That's my intention here. And I'm also talking to myself, because I'm helping myself along the way. I'm taking this journey along with you guys. So let's do it together, guys. Let's quit porn together. March to Freedom, day 15 tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. Peace.